How much should it cost to acquire $1 of ARR? Well, let's find out in today's edition of SaaS Metrics School. Welcome, Ben Murray here. So, cost of ARR, aka the SaaS CAC ratio, one of my favorite metrics. It's a top operator and investor metric, and I'll tell you why. One, it's intuitive. Two, it's easy to implement. And three, there are great benchmarks available to understand how your go to market team is performing. So, first, let's ground things in the cost of ARR formula. So pretty simple. It's sales and marketing expense in the numerator and net new ARR in the denominator. Of course, I've covered this in blog posts in my academy and courses. So there are a lot of nuances with this, but the formula is pretty straightforward. So that's sales and marketing expense on the top divided by net new ARR. And that's both new and expansion. Net expansion, that gives you the cost of ARR blended. So new and expansion. But we can also calculate the cost of ARR on a new basis, so just brand new logo acquisition, and then also on an expansion basis. And that's the incremental expansion, and really important in your bookings data to track net incremental expansion. Of course, you can track gross ARR with that expansion deal, but we need that net number to push into the formula. If you're self-service SaaS or PLG, we're going to derive your net expansion from your MRR waterfall. So those are the three ways you can calculate the cost of ARR. So let's talk benchmarks. And the latest data just came out from Ray Reich at benchmarkit.ai. So it's a give to get. So put your data in there and you'll get some custom benchmarks just for your company out to use in your business, which I highly recommend. We have to calculate SaaS metrics and then we have to benchmark our performance. So let's talk about the total population from this survey with the cost of blended ARR. And bottom quartile, or I'm sorry, actually, depending on how you look at the quartiles. So the best performance, top quartile, was $1.17. So $1.17 to acquire a net new dollar of ARR. Medium performance, $1.40. Bottom quartile performance, $1.84. Now we know, if you've read my newsletters, my blog post, aggregate benchmarks are dangerous to your health. There are tons of great benchmark reports out there, but they're aggregate. We can't use a $1.40 median to benchmark our business. I like to benchmark when we're talking go-to-market efficiency by ACV size. Because if I'm selling a $50 product versus a $500,000 product, the expectations for efficiency are much different. So let's look at ACV sizes. And in the data, we can look at 1 to 5K ACV. Let's start there. So we'll look at just top quartile performance and median performance. And again, if you want the full benchmark data set, just go over to Ray's site. So 1 to 5K ACV, and this is annual ACV, that's running top quartile, 40 cents. So 40 cents to acquire a net new dollar of ARR, 51 cents at median. In the 5 to 10K ACV bucket, best performance is 96 cents, and then 98 cents median. Now, that's a pretty tight range and I'll tell you the bottom quartile is $1.84 on that one. So sometimes, again, not all data sets are perfect. We have to take a little bit of grain of salt, even though I think Ray's data is the gold standard out there. We still have to take a little grain of salt with some of these benchmarks just to see how they're presenting the data, how much sample data they had in by ACV size. Now, 10 to 25K ACV, top performers costing $1.38, median $1.50. And then 25 to 50K looks like there wasn't enough sample size there yet. And then 50 to 100K, $1.28 and $1.38. And then 100K to 250, it was 243 and 313. Now that's a bit of a variance there. And usually I like to chart these by ACV size. And if we see some outliers, we kind of just draw us a line along that slope. And that, I think, gives us then a better idea of some of these. So that's a great way to benchmark your business on cost of ARR blended. Of course, we can do new and expansion. And this is the easiest way to call BS on a bookings forecast or budget. And also with long-term forecasts to size up ARR targets versus your total sales and marketing spend. At a macro view, it's a great way just to fact check that forecast, that budget, just to make sure we're structurally aligned at a macro level. So again, if you're not using the cost of ARR in your business, and I'd say if you're above 5 million, you should be using this. Now, it just depends. Like if you have 10 enterprise customers and 5 million ARR, perfect. Probably not yet. So there are a lot of nuances here. Above 10 million ARR, for sure, you should be using the cost of ARR and then looking at new and expansion versions of it. So, a little bit about the benchmarks for the cost of ARR. Love this metric. And if you find value in these episodes, thanks for listening to SaaS Metrics School. I'd love a rating and review. It'll just help us get the word out to more listeners. And then I'll, in the show notes, have a link to Ray's site. And then also, please join my SaaS community so I can let you know about future events, training events, templates, newsletters, and I hope to see you soon in person or at an online event.